Okay, so let's talk about the financial coaching. So like I said, the financial coaching I developed because I saw the knowing doing gap. People, it made sense, the 5 steps. They wanted to understand the 5 steps and wanted to implement, but then they battled. The moment an obstacle came, the moment something happened that was not fitting in perfectly into that little model, they didn't know how to overcome that. And that's why we decided to create the personal financial coaching model. Now, why is it important to have a coach, and what's the benefits of having a coach? Now, if you look at it from a sports analogy, because I think all of us understand that if you look at sport, you need a coach. So if you want to be the best at anything, you need to get a coach that can help you achieve that. The reason for that is that a coach has access to a lot of different people and have had access to a lot of different experiences. You basically start with only your experience. So if something out of the ordinary happens in your implementation, you have to look from your limited experience and say, okay, so how do I fix this? And because you have limited experience, you have limited options to solve that problem. Where the coach might have worked with 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people before, which now means that he's probably seen that scenario play out 10 times, 100 times before. So where you have to sit with a clean slate and try and figure out what the right solution is, your coach has seen this hundreds of times before, so he immediately knows. So what does that do? It helps you to not have to learn through trial and error alone. It saves you time. It makes sure that you don't get discouraged because of failure. Because if you don't have a coach that can guide you, how are you going to solve this? If you are really determined, you're going to try one thing. Then that thing might not work to solve your problem, which hits you back a little bit. Then you have to try another thing and go through trial and error until you find the right solution. Where your coach could have cut out all of that and just told you, listen, the previous times this has happened, how we solved this problem was that. There's a track record, this is how it's solved, and you just implement. So imagine the time you save. So by having somebody there with you that can guide you, give you advice, and tell you how to overcome obstacles, you are cutting your journey, the time to reach your goals by half, by 80%. So why would you want to go the long route if your coach can show you the shortcut? The second thing is, it's good to have a mentor or somebody that can keep you accountable. This is so important because it's so easy for us to bullshit ourselves, to go and tell ourselves all of the stories and give excuses and find problems for every solution. It's so easy to do that. But if you have a coach that you know is going to call you on your nonsense, is going to call you out when you are making excuses, then you have somebody that can keep you accountable, and you'll be amazed how honest you become with yourself if you know there's somebody that's going to call you out when you are not honest. The people we lie to most often is ourselves. We don't lie as much to other people as we lie to ourselves. And the moment you stop doing that, you can go on this journey to become successful. And what your coach does is he keeps you accountable. He doesn't allow you to lie to yourself, which means you're going to stop doing it because you know, I'm going to try and get this lie past my coach. He's not going to fall for it. And then you can just as well not lie to yourself. So that accountability is crucial. The next thing that is important in getting a coach, and why it's so important having a coach, is that you can run ideas by your coach. You might wake up or go to bed and have this brilliant idea in your head and say, yo, if I do this, it's going to work. It's going to be perfect. Everything's going to work. But because of your limited knowledge, your limited experience, you don't see all the pitfalls. Again, the coach has had all of this experience. He's looked at everything. He's done it before. So he can tell you, listen, it's a brilliant idea, but be very careful of this, or look out for that. And by doing that, again, he can save you all the trouble of going through a trial and error process to get there. So if you look at sport, Just to give you an example, a very practical example. If you look at the Springboks rugby team in 2016, 2017 seasons, the Springbok rugby team was completely decimated. They were the lowest rank in the world, I think, in the history of Springbok rugby. They lost against Italy. Now, a lot of people talk about the loss against Japan, but what they don't understand is that Japan is actually ranked much higher on the world rankings than Italy. And in 2016, 2017, we lost against Italy in a test, the first time ever. So we were at the lowest point in our rugby. In 2018, Rassie Erasmus came on board as the coach, and he started working with them. And end of 2019, the team won the World Cup. We all know this. Did the people in the team change dramatically? No, it was basically the same core of players. Yes, there was players going out and coming back, but the core of the team stayed the same. What changed? Did that team's talent change? Did their ability to play rugby change? Did their strength change, their endurance change? They were still the same people. What changed was the coach, the person that was telling them where to go, pointing them in the right direction, showing them what to implement and what not to implement. And they went from losing to Italy to killing the England team in the World Cup final. And that's in 2 years. Remember, everywhere else in the world, they have 4-year cycles. They prepare from the one World Cup for the next World Cup. Rassie had half of that, and he took that team from being as low as they've ever been to being world champions. That comes down to a good coach. Now, a lot of people think, but my coach, I can only be coached by somebody who's already a multi-millionaire, because how is he going to teach me how to manage my money if he's not a multi-millionaire already? But guys, that is a very short-sighted view of it. I'll give you an example. If we look at tennis, arguably the best tennis player that has ever played the game is Roger Federer. Yes, I know Djokovic and all these guys, it's arguably. But let's look at Roger Federer. He's arguably the best tennis player that has ever played the game. That means that there has never been anybody that can play tennis better than Roger Federer. Why does he have a coach? Because he can play better than that coach. If he and his coach plays a game, I promise you Roger Federer will probably beat that coach 6-0, 6-0, 6-0. Because he is the best that has ever played the game, but still he has a coach. Why is that? Why doesn't he go, you know what, I know it better than anybody else, I don't need a coach? And what's going to happen if he does that? He's probably not going to be number one for very long after that. The reason for that is that the coach can be objective where you can only ever be subjective about your situation. Your coach can see things from the outside which you can't see from the inside. He can see things in the future which you can't see from your perspective. It's all a change of perspective that allows the coach to point you in the right direction. So I always say, if you want to walk through a forest in the fog, so there's this dark fog and all you can see is about 1 meter or 2 meters ahead of you. How do you get from where you are to the other side of the forest? Well, you walk 2 meters, because once you've walked 2 meters, you can see another 2 meters. And then you walk another 2 meters and you can see another 2 meters, and eventually you will reach the other side of the forest. And the point we make with that analogy is that you have to start doing something. Don't wait for the whole path to be clear before you take the first step. You have to start doing it. But where does the coach fall in or fit into this whole analogy? Well, the coach sits high up in the air on in an outlook point, or he's flying on top with a helicopter, and he can see the whole forest from the top. And he can guide you in your ear and say, okay, walk 2 meters, but walk a little bit to the left, because otherwise you're going to walk into a boulder and then you have to walk around the boulder. Walk a little bit to the left. You still can only see 2 meters ahead of you, but you've got a guide sitting on top which can see 30 kilometers ahead of you. And he can slowly guide you. Doesn't mean there won't be any obstacles, but he will help you to pass that obstacles with the least amount of effort. And that's where the coach comes in. He's got this objective view. Guys, you cannot have your wife as a coach. You cannot have your best friend as a mentor, because the relationship is different with that. There's emotional involvement there. There's vested interest there. It's important to have somebody that isn't emotionally invested in your situation, so that they can truly objectively look and guide you to where you want to go. Guys, we come from an education system that for generations have taught us how to be good employees and earn income. But then we start working, but they don't teach us at school or at university what to do with the income once we've earned it. How do we win at this game that we play our whole lives? So we get to 40, we're battered, we're bruised, our expenses are higher than our incomes, and then we look at ourselves and people look at us and say, but you've made some stupid decisions. Well, you don't know any better. You didn't have anybody guiding you and telling you, rather do this than that. That's where it's so important to have a coach work with you, because the coach can guide you. They'll educate you. They'll show you what can be done and can't be done, to the point where you will eventually be able to coach somebody else. So that is why it's so important to not go on this journey on your own. You need to have somebody that can guide you.